Hello, this is going to be another example of creating a math formula. And so I just Googled a formula I was familiar with, and it's called Herons formula. I'm going to show you kind of from the start how I would think through this process. Herons formula is a formula for finding the area of a triangle given three sides. And so it's the square root of s times s minus a times s minus b times s minus c. A, B, and C are the three sides of the triangle, and S is what we call the semi-perimeter. It's the A plus B plus C divided by 2. So I actually have a couple of formulas that I'm going to have to be working with, but that's going to be the formula I'm going to attempt to work on or work with. And so sometimes when I'm going through something, I make myself just a little bit of note. I know it's going to be area equals square root of s times s minus a, etc. And so I'm just kind of making myself a little note as to what variables I'm going to need here in a comment. So then I have that to work from. And to start with, many times when we're doing these math formulas, on this one, A, B, and C are the sides of a triangle. And just to make it match with the formula, I'm going to go ahead and declare those variables as just A, B, and C. Typically, I would probably have you make them more descriptive, but you could also add a comment here and say A, comma B, comma C are the sides of a triangle. And that will help us. And then, instead of just S, though, for the third variable, I am going to call it the semi-perimeter. And notice I'm using camel casing there. The semi-perimeter is going to be A plus B plus C, and then I have to divide by 2. And a good thing to always do is divide by 2.0, just in case you need, that reduces what we call integer division errors down the road. If these were all integers and I divided by an integer, it would not give me a double result. So if I divide by 2.0, that helps prevent what we call integer division errors down the road. And then my actual formula that I'm going to use is above there. So I'm going to create a variable for the area. So double area. And then I'm going to assign area is going to be equal to and I'm going to have to use the square root formula, which we're going to have to look up under the math library. So then the area is going to be, if I look up here, it's the square root of this expression. So I know that it's math.sqrt. And some of them are kind of intuitive, like it might be math.abs, math.pow for POW, etc. You can Google some of those or just ask me about the math formulas if you need them. And then it's going to be semi-perimeter. Then this is where it gets a little tricky. In order to do multiplication, remember that you have to use an asterisk. And then it will be semi-perimeter again. And if you are like me, and sometimes it's a struggle to type things correctly, you could do copy and paste. And so it's going to be semi-perimeter minus A. And I have to put in another asterisk, parentheses, semi-perimeter, I did a copy paste again, minus B, and then an asterisk, and then a semi-perimeter minus C. And then that's going to be my formula. If I can get it to paste. There we go. And then that's going to calculate my area. Now, in order to output that, I would say the area equals, and then I'm concatenating strings or words with the variable. And I'm not worrying about formatting it. I'm going to go back to this website and see if they happen to have an example drawn out. So they have one here so that I can use to do some troubleshooting. So if the sides are 3, 4, and 3, it looks like my area should be 4.47. So if I go back, and I need to assign values to my A, B, and C before I calculate the area. I have to have these values assigned before I calculate the area, or it won't work. And now I know that I'm supposed to get 4.47, so if I execute that code, I have an error message. I need a parens. That's because I have a parens for all of these, but I don't have a parens for the square root, so I add in another parens and I execute. I have another error. It says a variable might not have been initialized. Double semi-perimeter. Okay, if I go back up here, I have a problem with assigning my formula here because A, B, and C have not been assigned any values yet. So it's better to, let's just declare my variable, and then after I've assigned values to A, B, and C, I can then assign the value to semi-perimeter. Those are all common mistakes that you guys might make, which is another reason I kind of just did this one from scratch. Hadn't practiced it before at all. So you could kind of see some of the very typical mistakes. Sometimes also when you're kind of trying to rush, which I'm kind of trying to do. And 4.47 is what the, now I should use other test data, but that is the result that was given to me from that example online. I should try some more out. Now, that's the first half of setting up the math formula. The second half is that we really want you to use a function when you're doing this. And so our function that we would use is like a public static void, and we're going to calculate the area of a triangle. And what happens is you need all of these values to calculate the area of the triangle. And so I'm going to say S, and I need A, and you had to declare each of these individually down here. So you have those variables again. When you redeclare the variables at this level down here, they are actually different. They are different variables than the ones declared up here. This A, B, and C are different A, B's, and C's down here. So sometimes what we might do is use another variable name. People like to use another variable name here because then they know that it is definitely a different variable. And then when I go to calculate my formula, it's going to be the exact same formula that I did here, except I'm going to cut and I'm going to paste, and we're going to create a local variable here for my area of the triangle, and then we're going to have area of the triangle is assigned math.square root. Now I have a problem. Semi-perimeter doesn't exist at this level. It's not local to this method. Semi-perimeter exists up here in the main program. If I try to execute this, I'm going to get an error. I'm going to get several errors, actually, because I have a lot of things that I haven't filled in. For example, area would be assigned, and when I call this method, how do I call a method? Area of a triangle is going to have 4 arguments. So area of triangle is going to have the semi-perimeter sent in. It's going to have A, B, and C sent in order to do that part of the calculation. And I am missing a curly brace. Okay, I have matching curly braces, beginning brace here, or ending brace goes with this beginning brace. I have a beginning and ending brace on area of a triangle, and then I need an ending brace for main, and if I don't have another one, I need an ending brace for the class, if those line up. So I'm trying to get the error message that my variable is not in the right locale, and that's what they call a it's a scope issue. So it's not throwing that error message though. So check your curly braces. Curly brace here, curly brace here. I have a curly brace for the class. Actually, I think that might do it. Checking beginning and ending curly braces. There we go. That's the error message I wanted to get. When the variable is out of scope, it says you cannot find that symbol. And so you're going to run into that error message quite a bit. And what that means is 2 things. 1, maybe it's a typo. Maybe you misspelled the variable. Or 2, it hasn't been declared. The variable that we have available to us locally is this one right here. It's just S. And so I'm going to just use S instead of semi-perimeter. But then on the flip side, instead of using A, I use the variable side1. So my semi-perimeters get changed to S within my method, and my other variables get changed to the appropriate sides. So we're getting pretty close to having this kind of wrapped up. The last thing that I have to do, I actually have to return something from this method. I needed a void, which means we return nothing, but we want to return a double. So I want to return a double, and then I'm going to return the area of the triangle, and hopefully this will work. I'm going to copy this. We're going to execute. I copied it so I would have it saved. I've got one more error message. Cannot find semi-perimeter. Semi-perimeter. And that's a typo. See, I told you that message might be a typo, so I spelled it wrong on that location. There we go. Hopefully. See if this works. And we got the same result that we did before, but now we've created this as a function. I could also have written a function to calculate the semi-perimeter if I had wanted to, but I did not. One thing, I did not sign in, so I'm not going to be able to save this code. That might happen to you, so I'm going to Control-C or copy it. And then it's off screen, you can't see it, but I'm going to open up Notepad++. And then I'm going to save my file to Notepad++, so then I will make sure that I do have that available to me. And once it's saved to Notepad++, then you guys I can sign in and I could actually save that as another example. Okay? That's going to wrap up this video.